Working at this for the past 2 days, and the United States would like to say that whilst there are some amendments that it does not agree with in full, this is definitely the most pragmatic response to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's the most pragmatic because it actually recognises a functioning two-state solution that respects the right of Israel to self-defense and respects the need of the Palestinian people for their own state. Now, there are amendments that are made. You can tell there are a lot of them, but either way, I'd like to expand on why this is the most pragmatic approach and why this is the one that you should vote for. So, in terms of the Palestinian state, this dictates that this essentially recommends that there needs to be a Palestinian state that respects its people as well as the state of Israel. This means a Palestinian state that is led by the Fatah party under Mahmoud Abbas, and actually a representative democratic Palestinian state. And American funding, certainly through the G7, will go to a representative Palestinian state. On the issue of funding, you have the G7 pledging to give $5 billion to the Palestinian government, the representative Palestinian government, to establish their government, to rebuild, and the rebuilding infrastructure, provide humanitarian aid. Now, critics of this might argue that actually this is constraining the aid to just $5 billion. I know certainly, for example, the Russian Federation argues that actually this doesn't go far enough. Well, clearly $5 billion is more than enough to rebuild and to provide vital infrastructure for building up the essential services so that we don't see what is happening right now, where the Palestinians can't get access to essential humanitarian aid. And through the G7, we are more than committed to giving aid in order to rebuild this region. The state of Palestine will encompass the pre-1967 borders as stated in the resolution. So pre-1967, what does that mean? It does mean the dissolution of Israeli settlement in the West Bank. The United States does not support the state of Israel on this matter, and this is consistent with US policy regarding this. In terms of other things, such as the Golan Heights, this actually states that half of the Golan Heights will be split, so it will be split down, the Golan Heights closer to Israel, and the Golan Heights closer to the Syrian Arab Republic, and the fact that the 50% closer to Syria will be turned into a demilitarized zone, so show that this is a pragmatic approach that respects both sides in this matter, and with the overwhelming support of the international community. Furthermore, in terms of aid, we are seeing that, in fact, we are replacing the efforts of the UNRWA in the region to establish a new aid organization that, because of the alleged and the very concerning links between the UNRWA and Hamas and its Hamas infiltration, this is a very, very vital course to include. The fact that it recognizes the threat of Hamas, and it recognizes that only through a new agency can we provide effective aid. This is a very important and pragmatic approach. On the issue of Hamas, this resolution is the best way forward in terms of dissolving Hamas. It encourages Hamas to disband immediately, and indeed the UK and the United States, as stated in the proposal, will not recognise any state of Palestine until Hamas have dismantled, and this includes Hamas dismantling its participation in the political organisations of any hypothetical state of Palestine. This is the best way forward because the resolution acknowledges the atrocities committed by Hamas, and it acknowledges that fact for what it is, which is terrorism. The fact that Hamas is disbanding this, you might ask, how is this done? Well, this clearly states that an international coalition of countries, led by either, as it states, the Russian Federation or the UAE, will come in and be the primary force in deterring any more violence, and we can see that this will be in the most effective way, preferably with a UAE-led force, because the UAE is a friend and a vital partner of these negotiations and these efforts, and the UAE is a close friend to the Palestinian people. In fact, the initial resolution suggested that America lead this coalition. Now, the United States actually relinquished any responsibility for this UN coalition because it recognises the optics of this, and it recognises the fact that should America have led this operation, it would have inspire more acts of violence, and it would not have helped the negotiations. We recognise that fact. We gave up our leadership of this coalition in favour of a more peaceful, democratic and consensus-building approach. The urges that a two-state solution, once a two-state solution has been established, the UN-backed coalition will be there to prevent border skirmishes. And this would be the most vital part, because in fact, we will know that the state of Palestine, as is suggested by this resolution, will have an initial military force of 75,000 soldiers. This will be a vital deterrent in any attacks, including the UN coalition. And in fact, this is probably the most vital part of this, the fact that the state of Palestine has a means to defend itself, thereby meaning that both the state of Palestine and the state of Israel is able to defend itself. In regards to Jerusalem, the committee to decide the status of Jerusalem is very important, because the entirety of Jerusalem cannot be given to one side. Now, the United States recognises Jerusalem as the state of Israel's capital, but it is not a final solution. It is not a final decision on this matter, meaning that actually, should the committee decide to either make Jerusalem a de jure capital for both sides, or make Jerusalem split between East and West, we would recognise that fact, and we would support that fact, because actually Jerusalem, in part, or de jure, remains a part of the capital of Israel, and also, of course, the capital of the state of Palestine. And we would respect this matter, and we actually agree with this. In regards to the international observance to increase humanitarian aid, we support this. The United States supports this, and this is a clear and agreed upon approach to rapidly increase humanitarian aid. We've advocated for the opening of various border crossings into Gaza to get aid into there. And this is consistent with American policy. America has pledged to give $2 million to the people in Gaza since the start of this conflict, and we continue to advocate and be the biggest advocates for humanitarian. And overall, I'd like to say that whilst there are specific portions of this that we disagree with, the overwhelming majority of this resolution suggests that it is the most pragmatic approach, and I strongly urge all of you today to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of the United States. Are you open to question?
Yes.
Israel, you have been recognized.
The delegation of Israel has a question regarding a proposition vis-à-vis a two-state solution opposed by herself. There was mention of pre-1967 borders, and if we look to the past, we can see that these pre-1967 borders have been tried, and they have failed when the Arab so-called Palestinians were unhappy with these exact same border propositions that you are supporting again. This resulted in the Six-Day War, which they waged upon Israel with the support of their Arab national neighbours, which Israel were able to win easily within 6 days. Not only does this support the idea that Palestinian people would be safe under the Israeli government and security control, but it also raises awareness of the hostile and aggressive nature of Israel's neighbours, reinforcing that a two-state solution would serve no purpose but to retain pressure on Israel and pose existential threats on its sovereignty. What is your proposed solution to make this exact same border agreement satisfactory for the so-called Palestinians, and how do you respond to Israel's genuine concerns of its hostile neighbours?
Well, the United States respects the question posed by the Israeli delegate. In fact, it is a very valid question. The state of Israel has been under attack for the entirety of its existence since the lawfully voted on UN mandate in 1948. But I'd like to add this: the United States does not support the Israeli government in its desire, the current Netanyahu government, in its desire to not have a two-state solution. The United States has always been an advocate for this two-state solution, and we urge the Netanyahu government to actually back us, to support us in this. To address some of the specific points you made, the fact is that the political landscape and the geopolitical landscape has changed drastically since 1967. In 1967, you saw the entirety of the Arab world united against the state of Israel, not even establishing diplomatic relations. Now you have states like Jordan, you have states like Morocco, you have states like Bahrain the UAE in the Abraham Accords in 2020, recognising the existence of the State of Israel. So the fact of the matter is that there is a very, very different landscape from 1967 to now, and the IDF would be able to continue defending Israel for defensive purposes, not for offensive purposes because of the UN-backed UAE or Russia-led coalition in the region, but the IDF would be within its power to self-defense. So the reality is that there is less likelihood, much less of likelihood of attack now than there was in 1967 with a lot of the Arab world, at least Arab leaders recognising that fact. So I would disagree with that premise of the Israeli dead bill. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, do you yield the floor?
Yes.
Are there any speakers that would like to speak against this draft resolution?